Hey, I'm Belle, and I am starting a project which I'm calling Post-chrysalis analysis. I have been a executive producer of a community radio show for about 3.5 years, and even though I am quite comfortable talking in front of a microphone, I'm slightly less comfortable talking in front of a camera. I really want this space to be something very personal to me. Um, I have been on a very long journey with bipolar, and it has been about 5.5 years since a very difficult time in my life where I had recurrent psychotic episodes. And I haven't really had an opportunity to speak to my lived experience in a very personal way. And I hope that this space is somewhere I can chronicle some of my challenges that I faced with healing, a lot of the joys that I've experienced as well, um, coming so far and gaining a lot of confidence and self trust and really nurturing my inner child, which is something I also have been prioritizing of late. I really love art, and I wanted to somehow incorporate my love of art and creativity into this project. The reason I called it Post-chrysalis is because I feel like for very many years I have developed some protective mechanisms, and especially in the last maybe 2 years, retreated a little bit from the world. And I wanted to think about the ways our perspectives are different once we have emerged from the so-called chrysalis. And I am a prolific user of social media, but I wanted to sort of just dedicate and really concentrate this space as something that is, I suppose, unique. Everybody in this world, is unique. And I hope that my story and the storytelling that I have to offer speaks to people out there and um, forms some connections as well, beyond the sort of community that I am already lucky to have. So, a little bit about me. I am based in Meganjin, Brisbane, in Queensland, Australia. And yeah, as I mentioned before, I have been involved in community radio. So a lot of what I do is storytelling, like facilitating other people telling their stories, um, hoping to empower other people with disability as well. I identify as queer, disabled, and neurodivergent. And that in turn has also been its own journey of self discovery with identity and feeling comfortable claiming those identities and connecting with other people with shared lived experience. So I do, I suppose, understand the sort of mechanisms of storytelling, but it is a bit different to turn the microphone or the camera back on myself and think about myself and, my own journey with this idea of emergence and um, bringing a sense of hope to others, I think is also important. Um, when I was young, I was 14 when I first had a psychotic episode. and 15 when I first was hospitalized. And I think that that is a theme of my many years with this illness, of not seeing other people going through similar experiences, or at least talking about them openly. Um, but bipolar isn't the totality of me. It is something that I've been through and speaks to a lot of my, I suppose, barriers and challenges. And um, more recently, I have been understanding a lot of my struggles as well through the lens of neurodivergence more broadly. And accepting that bipolar is a form of neurodivergence, and understanding that just because your brain works a little differently doesn't mean that it's broken. And so I think that what I would describe my current experience or mentality is something in a state of flux, where there's been a lot of change in my life and there's a lot of change in the world around us. And so finding that sense of stability, creating a sense of stability for yourself can be quite hard. And one way I have been, I suppose, trying to stabilize myself and ground myself is through artistic practice and um, playing with my art and not having a fixed idea of what my art should look like, and also doing things that I used to do when I was a teenager and a child that used to bring me a lot of joy. Because I think sometimes there's a hardening or a harshness of the world that distances ourselves or alienates us from our inner child. And I'm really pulling back on those memories of fond memories of those times, which is complex for me because during those times I was experiencing some bullying because I did exhibit traits of autism and ADHD at a young age. And then also, going through psychotic episodes, which are make you very apparently different to other people. So that's kind of what's been going on and what's really prompted me and driven me to start this project. I am very new to making videos, and I have explored making videos in the past. I think the challenge for me will be being consistent and um, you know, be having some clarity around what I want this to look like, um, but also a very unpolished presentation of myself because I think that that is part of letting go of perfectionism, is accepting that your art, your output, your projects may sometimes be unpolished. And then I think sometimes that is what that authenticity actually connects you and magnetizes you to other people, is not necessarily forcing yourself to fit into a particular box, which is, I think, again, um, that kind of realization that you can have at a later age or a younger age, because I think, connecting with my past selves has been really healing, and understanding that they had a lot of wisdom and were tapped into a lot of wisdom that I didn't necessarily understand, but then really appreciate it now. And it's been such a privilege to, I suppose, get to know myself a little bit better. And that has helped me to have some compassion for myself, for my failures, and for my missteps, and, you know, um, developing a real deep love of self has probably been the most profound realization that I want to spread with this post-chrysalis project. So if you've made it to the end of my video, thank you very much, and I hope that you continue to follow along with this journey. And I hope that you treasure your individual and unique self and learn from yourself the wonderful lessons that our past selves have to teach us, and offer ourselves some grace as well for those for getting through those really hard times in the best way that we knew how. So thank you, and I hope to see you in the next one.